Welcome, everybody. My name is Steve Drost. With me, as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, Will and I are both from the Quivr CRM team, where our objective is simple. How can we help you run your business as efficiently as possible? Now, Will, this episode is part of our What Does This Button Do series. And Will, we both know that if there's a button somewhere in the system, I have to push it.
Gotta push it.
Got to push the button.
Gotta push it.
Got to. One thing that I want to talk about, or the thing that I want to talk about today, is perhaps maybe an underappreciated feature inside of the system, and it's what we call the firm record. Will, why don't you explain to our listeners what the firm record is?
Yeah. So essentially what this is it's a household that represents your business. And the reason it's in there is you want to be able to assign tasks to it. You want to be able to assign automations to it. You want to be able to use it as sort of its own hanging folder in your file system where you can put projects in it, tasks in it, emails in it, all sorts of good stuff in it in order to not only keep track of those things, but also organize those things.
For
So
sure.
that when you need to report on them, you got the power of Salesforce there ready to go. And so I think it's important to pull out a couple of details about the firm record, which is one, there should only be one. There's very few places in Quivr that we say this, but you only want one firm record. And so the button that we're talking about pushing is that record type, change record type button. And if you've got more than one firm record type, you're going to have a bad time. Don't do that.
I don't even
Just
think
use
you
one
can
of
have
them.
more than one. I think we have a validation rule in there because early Quiver days, somebody had more than one and it wasn't good. Like, oh yeah, we need to prevent that. But you're right. The firm record is to help you manage on the business, right? Signing your ADV, doing your drift reporting, doing your client memos, doing your quarterly billing. All of these things that aren't necessarily related to a singular client, a singular prospect, but more so related to your entire firm. And I love the firm record. Of course, I'm biased. I created it. So of course I like it. If I didn't, that'd be pretty foolish on my end. Today, I want to highlight the firm record and kind of how it takes the entire on the business topics full circle. So the first thing we get to do with the firm record, and we're going to bring up whiteboarding, because why wouldn't we bring up whiteboarding, is whiteboard all the stuff that you just have to do on perhaps a recurring basis. Monday morning, my mom, every Monday, she does drift reporting. I want her to go to Black Diamond, review our drift reporting, and if there's anything in there that needs to be rebalanced, right? Someone's got too much cash, something like that, out of tolerance. I want an action in the system telling me to do this. So every Monday morning, my mom gets an automated task that says drift reporting, and it tells her what to go do, right? Every quarter, we need to start our quarterly billing. Every month, we send our client monthly memos. All of these things hanging out there, I just want to have in my system so that I know what needs to happen and when, right? Is that fair?
It is. And I think the other really important piece of this is it's very tempting as a firm owner to be like, I know how to do this. I'm not going to put a record in there because it's something that I handle. It's my responsibility. I already know how to do it. And then maybe you're out of the office that week, or you're on, you're doing something else and your attention is elsewhere. It's wonderful to be able to use some of the features that we have in Quivr, like the task steps, to be able to, I just need to delegate this one week, right? Or, in my case, I've worked with an assistant now for for a really long time. And I've forgotten how they do it. You probably are in the same situation where your mom handles this now, and then there's a week where she can't do it and you have to come back in and do it. And it's like, wait, I haven't done this in 3 years. I don't know how to do this.
She took a 10-day vacation like 3 months ago and went to Italy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, mom got a raise. I'm not, I had no idea, no idea what I was doing. But you're right. So, right, the first thing is whiteboard what needs to happen. The second thing is to document how and when those things need to happen, right? And you mentioned the task steps, right? The task steps is that rich text field where we teach you how to use this field, but it's give yourself a video on how it's done. Man, I watch videos that I made for my mom 3 years ago when I was doing those tasks when she was gone. But if we document the video, the how-to, and right, we have the masterclass in the community showing you how to do this, you now have a system where you know what needs to get done, right? That's your whiteboard. And then on Monday for that drift reporting, my mom just gets that task and it has the task steps there. And I'm going to argue one more point on why you should document this and have this whiteboarded. Delegating. If I didn't document those task steps, I would not be able to delegate. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's very fair. The task steps is a relatively painful part of building out these processes, right? It's the piece that's gonna take you the most time. It takes you a little bit of planning. You may have to do it more than once because you're gonna record the video and then you're gonna screw it up and you're gonna start over. But like it pays dividends for the life of your practice. You forget how to do something, your admin forgets how to do something, you hire someone new and they need to come on and learn how to do it. Like it's so powerful when your learning management tool is integrated with your project management tool. It is well worth the time that it takes to just document all that stuff and get it associated with the task itself.
For sure.
Cannot stress that enough.
And you'll also realize, at least I found this when I was documenting how things needed to be done. Like, for example, drift reporting. Well, the first time I thought of drift reporting, I said, well, that's an investment management practice. Like, I can't delegate that. I need to do the investment management and the financial planning topics. And then I realized that if I created the drift report inside of Black Diamond clean and tight, I had very strict parameters as to when action needs to be taken. Well, I can educate those two things. The only thing I need to do is take action if one of those, somebody breaches those parameters. So that means every single thing is delegatable in that point until somebody breaches the tolerance levels, and then I need to take action. And to be very honest, how often does that happen? I've got 65 clients, somewhere around there. Not often, once or twice a month. So my mom is doing the drift reporting 4 Mondays, 4.3 Mondays technically a month. And maybe 2 or 3 households are getting action to me, and I just go in and trade them, or I review them and rebalance them. So you also identify when you document this that we can delegate more of our job than we may have originally had thought. At least that's what I found. But once it's right, once we whiteboard, and we'll show you this in the system, once we whiteboard it, once we document, then the biggest thing that I actually like about the firm record is everything is sorted. Everything is clean and everything is organized. And that occurs on the firm record. So we go back to this drift reporting. Well, I have a thing in the system that tracks every single time or shows me every single completed task, step, and workflow pertaining to drift reporting, because that automation isn't necessarily triggered on just the firm record. It is triggered on the specific entry for drift reporting. So that way, let's say I want to review the drift reporting that happened 3 weeks ago. I know exactly where to go. And in fact, I can review the drift reporting every single time it's ever been done. And who's going to want to see that?
Yeah, our friends in compliance and regulation, it makes that part so much simpler. Is not only are we making sure that internally we're following the right procedures, but we're able to reflect back to compliance, regulatory. This is when this got done. These are the procedures that we followed. This got completed. We know that that got processed correctly and efficiently. And then you can just, here's my report. Here's all the times I did it over last year. And once I think you've had this experience absolutely, where once you start communicating with a regulator, it builds trust with them because they can see like, oh, Steve's got this dialed. All of his stuff is probably going to be like this. I can ask for these reports. I can put all this into my file. We know it's all getting done. Like it's such a nice, easy, clean way to, here's all of that data that you just requested. It's already formatted. It's already clean. It builds confidence in that process too.
For sure, for sure. What I want to do now is I'll share a dummy environment inside of Quivr. And we'll walk through what these components look like all the way to how you can present this to a regulator. Now, of course, we're not compliance people. Don't take anything that we're doing as compliance advice here. It absolutely is not. However, though, the direction that you're going, I think it's probably safe and legal for us to say it will help you. But as far as, getting compliance approval, that's not coming from this conversation. Also, just a quick note before I share as well, inside of the community, Quivr users, we have a very, very, very thorough masterclass on this exact topic. So if this is new to you, or maybe we're going a little too fast or not getting enough detail for you, go check out that masterclass. It walks you through the exact components and features within Quivr that you need to know. And then it goes very, very, very detailed into how to set these up, what to do, and ultimately allow you to create dozens of these so that you can get all of that on the business stuff out of your mind and just into your system. Okay. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and share. Will, I'm going to need you here. Can you see the calendar view inside of Archer pretty well right now?
Yep, you've got it. Looks good.
I always get a little bit nervous. So like we said, right, the first step is whiteboarding. In my Drost Financial Quivr environment, I have like 60 or 70 of these. And I'm not joking. But what we would highly recommend you do is simply document what you need to do and when. So for example, that drift reporting every single Monday, right? Just do that. Get it in here, have it be every single Monday, right? Monthly gift reporting. We want to do that on the 3rd of the month. Push statements to your portal, right? Whatever you need to do, just outline it here. Will, would you have anything to add on this page?
I think it's important as you're getting ready to do this, just to remember that you can piecemeal this. Like, this is an elephant, you eat it one bite at a time. As you're doing this work, take an extra 20, 30 minutes and get it into the system, right? Like, if you're doing your drift reporting for this week and it's not already in there and you're like, yep, do this all the time, take a little bit of extra time and get it in here. And then at the end of a year, at the end of a couple of years, like whatever it's going to be before you get all of this together, like now you've got a system that is functional. So don't feel overwhelmed that you have to get all of it right away. Piecemeal it in.
Yeah, I can promise you that you will not get all of this in on day one. I am still adding things to it. For example, Minnesota, I'm regulated, I'm state regulated, and Minnesota had the IAR thing start like this year, maybe last year. So when that came, right, that's a new thing that I have to do for my business. Therefore, that's a new addition to this page, right? So not only, even if you got absolutely everything in here for your business today, well, understand that your needs are going to change, right? You might hire, you might do something. It's just simply going to change. But I can tell you also, though, if you get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in here, you're going to understand exactly how this works. It's going to be addicting because you're going to find yourself on a random Thursday doing something and it's going to click like, wait, why isn't this inside of Quivr? Why isn't this inside of my calendar review? Why am I not applying this to the way that Will and Steve tell us to manage on the business things? Perfect. I love it. Don't let perfection prevent you from accomplishing very, very good, right? But once we get this down, right, we talked about the learning management system. We talked about how all of this works. Well, that stuff is just going to hit your homepage. So today happens to be a Monday. Well, my mom got the drift reporting workflow kicked off today. And how is she going to experience that? Well, she's going to click on the task. Now, ignore the fact that this is a birthday task, but she's going to click on it. She's going to open this task. And up here in the top right, she's going to see these task steps. And there's going to be a video showing her how to do the drift report. There's going to be written instructions, right? It's right here front and center. Now, my mom does the drift reporting every Monday. So I would bet a lot of money she's not clicking on the link, watching the video on how to do it. I bet what she's doing is we have Black Diamond URL inside of the written instructions. She's probably just clicking on the link to take her to the report and she's going to knock it out in 5 minutes. But I've told people this before. How often do we do our ADV, Will?
I tried to do mine as infrequently as possible. So I was a once a year type
Oh, yeah.
ADV person. Yeah.
Yep. I had to do mine twice last year because I moved and it was not fun. I hate doing my ADV. But the point though is every single year, I'm going to watch a video of me from a few years ago showing myself how to do my ADV. I'm also going to have links to reports inside of Black Diamond that I've already created. Like, how many assets do you have? How many clients do you serve, etc. All of those reports are already built. I have no idea where they are today, but I'm going to link to them. That way I can get my ADV ready as fast as possible. So, right, step 1, do your whiteboard. Step 2, document your process. That way things just get kicked off. But now finally, I know the theme of this, what does this button do, is your firm value or firm record. We're finally now going to get to showing you how that works. So good value financial planning. I'm not going to lie. I think if Dwight Schrute ran a financial planning company, it'd probably be named something comparable. So this is your company. This is our company. Now notice how we don't have those purple buttons on a household, right? Like the helpers and normal quote unquote clients have all those purple buttons. We don't have those here, do we? Instead, we have a whole bunch of tabs. And notice these tabs, they should more or less fit most of your business departments, your insurance, your compliance, firm planning, firm investment management, marketing, meetings, right? These are more or less those topics. And what you're able to do is let's click into this firm investment management, for example. Notice how we have an entry right here for weekly drift reporting. Every single time on Monday, when my mom gets that drift reporting task kicked off, it is going to be tied to this without her even realizing it. Now, the benefits of it is if I click into this, I now have that manila folder for drift reporting. I can put notes in here. I can put descriptions in here. I can put my instructions in here if I want to. Now, I don't put my instructions in here because where do my instructions live? Inside of the template, right? Inside of that task, inside of that workflow. But you can put everything in here. And probably my favorite thing is this activity history, which shows you every time this has been completed. Now, Will, you alluded to earlier about meeting with your regulator and maybe gaining some of their trust that either you're doing things that you say you're going to do, or you're just simply organized and you know what's going on. Again, not providing compliance advice here, but when I got audited, I don't know, a year or two, maybe 3 ago by now, I had an auditor or the regulator ask me a very simple question. How do you ensure that your clients' investments remain in line with their investment policy statements? And I responded, well, every week we run the drift reporting, right? That's a good answer. He then smartly said, well, how do you make sure you run the drift reporting? And I said, well, every Monday, the workflow gets completed. He goes, well, how do you ensure it happens every Monday? I said, well, on every Monday at 2 a.m., it automatically gets kicked off of my system. He goes, how do you make sure that happens? I'm like, well, it's just an automation in my CRM. People know I get a little testy. I'm like, what don't you understand? And finally, I said, you know what, man, I just have to share my screen and show you. So I came into this section inside of Drost Financial. He saw this and he goes, what is this? I said, this is the section inside of my CRM that ensures that drift reporting is just done every week. I then clicked over here and I hit view all. And in my system, now there's only 2 here. In my system, I had like 150 entries for drift reporting. He's like, what is this? I said, this is how it gets kicked off every week. He then made me pick a random one. I clicked on it. And inside of here, there were notes right here entered by my mom saying reviewed, review drift report, all intolerance or whatever she writes and say, and it was already there. And I said, well, she reviewed it on this date and here's the export, the CSV export from Black Diamond. We clicked on that and he saw that it was empty. And he said, go back. I went back and he said, click another one. I clicked another one and it was the exact same thing. So not only was my auditor and regulator very, very, very happy, but chief compliance officers, chief operations officers, marketing directors that want to see what's happening with your firm for marketing are going to be happy because you can see what work is getting done for your firm that needs to happen. Now, of course, after he asked me that question, he asked me, well, how do you ensure that your ADV gets sent timely every year? And I smiled and I said the exact same way as my drift reporting. I then came in, I showed him the ADV section instead of the ADV section instead of the drift reporting. And he got to see every single time that I completed it. And he asked me like 17 other topics. And I just smiled and said the exact same. And my audit was done in 42 minutes. Not an exaggeration. It was done in 42 minutes. They blocked all 4 hours. And instead I got to go have lunch with my wife that day. Any questions on this, Will? Anything we should add?
No, the beauty of this is the ability to have that reporting. And so, as you're designing these out, you want to be thinking of it in terms of what do I need to do internally? Like what needs to be done? But then also, what do I want to show? So like you had that little note of where your mom basically said, like, reviewed this on this date. And here is here was the output from the system that showed that, we don't need to do anything this week. And the nice thing about how you've designed that is then when you're coming back to it, you kind of got everything encapsulated right there that you might need in order to not only then go back for your own edification of, I'm comfortable that this got done correctly. Mom did a great job as expected. But you also have it from the compliance and regulatory standpoint of, it says nothing needed to be done. And here's that file that shows nothing needed.
For sure. Again, firm record, I do think is maybe an underutilized feature inside of the system. I know every single firm out there is tracking the on the business somehow. The reason that the firm record exists inside of Quivr is because I didn't want to manage this stuff in an Excel spreadsheet. I simply wanted it in my CRM. And if we can apply automations in Archer functionality to our firm, then why wouldn't we leverage that technology? But again, if you're not a Quivr user and something you struggle with is on the business tasks and functionality and just making sure things get done, we totally get it. We've practiced, Will. We've ran firms, we've worked in firms, we've sat in, I would say, every single seat between the two of us inside of an advisory practice. Come schedule a demo. Come see how this actually works in a little bit more detail. If you are a Quivr user and this is something you're struggling with, I cannot recommend enough. Go watch that masterclass on managing on the business. If you finish that and you still have questions or maybe something didn't click, come to office hours. We'll help you with whatever we can. Submit a ticket, reach out, because we understand how important this is. And we're also very confident in the infrastructure inside of Quivr that once you get down the right path, this is going to be addicting. You're going to want to see that calendar view fill up. You're going to want all of your stuff in there. It's just an easy way to stay organized and clean. But Will, anything else to add on the firm record?
No, I think the only other piece that you just have to consider a little bit is the roles work a little bit differently. Make sure they're filled out so that when you go to assign automations, that it's being done the correct way. But jump into the community, come to office hours, send us tickets. We're here to help. We want to, help you run your business efficiently. So utilize these tools.
And we actually didn't discuss roles. So just like on a client household, we give you roles, like who's the advisor, who's the second advisor, etc. The firm record is the same. Who's your CEO? Who's your CCO? Who's your compliance analyst? Who's your COO? Who's your lead CSA? So we give you a whole bunch of roles at the firm level. That way your templates, your workflows, etc., get assigned to the correct person. So my mom is listed as, I believe, the investment analyst. And that is who the drift reporting is getting assigned to. It's not getting assigned to her directly. It's getting assigned to the investment analyst who happens to be her. Now, why do I do this? Because I might have to share this publicly eventually, but my mom told me she's retiring in like 2.5 years. And I'm pretty sad about that. because I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do next. But when she does ultimately retire, which of course is gonna be a great moment, I'm gonna have to replace her in some form or fashion, and that way I don't have to rebuild all of this stuff because whoever I plug in as the new investment analyst is just gonna get all of those tasks, right? So it keeps everything very, 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 very clean. But there we go. That's what that button does. Push the button, play around with that button, and get as efficient as you can with your managing of the on the business tasks.